Yeah,
Yeah.
what was your initial, I don't know if initial, okay, let's start like this. Let's go like, what is your initial experience training with him like, and how did it um, evolve as we went along? Because for me, my first day of training with GT, he put a sword in my hand and he said, go, and he taught me pasada. And again, I keep saying this, when I showed up in the Philippines, I had a lot of martial arts, sorry, I had a lot of martial arts experience under me already. I had a good chunk of some kenjutsu experience. I had dabbled in a little bit of Chinese weapons, but only 3 days of Pekiti I had done when Tuhon, Shifu Kanishk first brought it to India, and it was like 7 years before I actually first went to the Philippines. So I didn't know what I was getting into, and I didn't have no footwork. I didn't have my angles. I didn't know anything. And he put a sword in my hand, and he taught me this set called the Pasada. I had no idea what I was doing. Um, and it took me. I remember my first day with GT when it was just him and me, nobody else. And I think it was towards the end of my third month there, and or my end of my second month, one of them. And he taught me Spada Daga for the first time. And I remember just sitting, I remember having these aha moments going off all the time. But it took me a while actually. It took me a couple of months of training with him to get to those aha moments, because in the beginning everything was confusing. I didn't understand anything. I had no idea what he was talking about half the time. I had no idea what I was just trying to copy and mimic those around me. And after training, there would be people who would I would spend time with other people over there. Most of them are Tuhons now. There was Tuhon Pita, Tuhon Belton, there's Tuhon Jim, um, there was Trevor, there was Tina and Felix. And I spent time with these guys, and they really are the ones who took me through my beginning paces. But in the beginning, I don't know if what I got. It took me 2 months of training with GT, and back to back, or 3 months of training with GT when I stayed there for that chunk of time, for me to get those sort of aha moments where everything started clicking. Um, and post that, the aha moments would come. But every time, the cool thing about training with GT is that you might see the same amount of the same similar esque material, but every time you go there, you get new insights into it. That was my first experience. um I know like for Zarir, there used to be a lot of times when we talk at the end of the day, where it would be he would or Zarir, you would feel like everything is new, we did everything new today, and then we would be like, no, actually it was it was similar. It was what we did yesterday. This is how connected, this is whatever, these are all of the things that connected. But I'm like, did it get easier as you went along? Like, what is, when you first began, what happened, and then did it get easier, make more sense without an interpreter around as you went along?
I don't know if it got easier, but they definitely, like, the first few days definitely felt like I had no idea what I was doing initially. And I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't seeing any of the connections uh, between between certain drills. And also when you swap, um, sticks for knives, and you leave the knives for empty hand, like, I wasn't seeing some of that stuff. And then obviously, when we're revising later, when we're practicing, even having a conversation about it later, I'm like, okay, the penny drops with slowly. It dropped very slowly for me. It took a couple of days. I started seeing that much more clearly. uh, but I don't think it got, in terms of actually, the new stuff that was happening for me, because everything was new. I don't think that got easier as the 10 days got on. But seeing the connections, at least, after the fact, like, theoretically, it started to make much more sense to me, which
Yeah.
was nice.
One of the things that I was trying to do with you guys before we left was, this is the stuff that I know GT likes to train. We're going to go over.
Yeah.
Did that, like, Neha, did that help you?
Oh, for sure. I think you were pretty clear with each. And what was really nice is, I mean, we keep talking about this, us being at different levels, or at least us having trained for maybe shorter or longer periods of time. And I feel like you prepared us at each level. So for me, definitely, I mean, you had taken me through a bunch of different drills. a lot of the gunting stuff that you had said, a lot of the, so when I was seeing it, um, it felt familiar enough where I didn't feel lost. I mean, I think that was, I think it really helped me a lot. And in terms of training with GT, for me, more than anything, it was almost this process of osmosis. Like it was just almost just being around him and just seeing how he moved, just seeing how what Z was talking about before, this idea of him talking about expression, right? Like this is all about your own expression of it. And it just seems like he's got such a pure, obviously, but such like a pure sort of such clean way of like thinking about every little thing that he's doing. And I mean, for me, that was also incredible to watch. I got nervous a couple of times. I think you saw, like when he would come to me and he would just suddenly, he'd say, "We're doing this."
In the beginning, yeah. In the beginning, the first day, you were just like, your brain was.
What is happening? And you had given us very clear instructions, which I mean, super fair instructions, which was like, "Don't look at me." I mean, I think it's on video a couple of times where something would happen. I would look over at you like, "No,
Don't look at me."
do not look at me," and but then I think that eased off from me. I mean, I'm going to bring this up, and I will bring this up for the next 80 years of my life, is when he did Kabayan with me. Just that touching hands, just that it must have been a 60-second thing less. But I think I'm going to remember that for the rest. Just how gentle he was with me, but just how beautiful, and just that energy, and just, man, and Z that day when he was doing that elbow thing with you, do you remember whatever it was, the thing? Just watching you go through that with him for me was really. Do you remember do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course, I'll never forget that either. But that's what I'm saying, right? He like, I'm coming into that with like no experience, and he's obviously going at his speed, and then realizing, no, this guy's not getting it. So he's slowing it down for me. He's correcting my, wrist locks and things as I'm trying to do it. So yeah, just amazing. I think, Aditya, what you were saying earlier about preparing us, like, and I want to like retract to something I said earlier, which was, if I had seen it before, because you said that, GT likes to do this or that kind of stuff, especially like the knife drills and things that we had done back at LightHaven. And in fact, I had done something with Neha just a few days before we left for the Philippines. That kind of stuff, like, it felt really good that I was able to do it with some level of, not expertise, but some level, decent level, because I'd actually done it before, I'd actually practiced before. Everything else, though, was kind of, I have to figure this out in real time. So that was much more challenging.
I mean, I think one of the things that Neha said was, for me, another one of the points of, I keep saying this to people, and I don't think people fully understand or appreciate the experience of spending time with him, like what the words Neha used, where it's not necessarily how much time I get training with him, like physically training with him. Being around him gives me a glimpse into his mind. And so when I am at home training by myself, or I'm teaching you guys, and I come across a problem, it's easier for me to engineer a solution having a glimpse into GT's mind. Because like Zarir also at some point said, he said that there is a problem, there are many right answers, but there are also many wrong answers. But the right answers, there is a very specific reason why they are the right answers. And understanding what makes the right answer helps you to find the other right answers, or find the right answer that works for you. And GT spent his entire life in this process, right? So just like sitting with him, talking to him, seeing how he approaches everyday life or whatever, it just gives you more and more glimpses into his brain, which just help you connect dots later on down the line. So Zarir and Neha, you have an advantage that Shweta doesn't, and that is that, in most people would view it as an advantage. It depends on how you use it, but is that you guys are physically here with me in Goa, and so a lot of the
you guys have an advantage. You got me.
Yeah, you go.
I didn't know how to phrase that. You had no idea how to phrase that.
No, I meant that. No, I didn't mean you have me, but you have someone to do the actual touching. I don't know how to put this nicely or frame this in an intelligent way. But all the sensitivity thing, not the emotional sensitivity thing, but the partner drills. There we go. You have me around to help with that stuff, right? Shweta doesn't. Shweta has only like a couple of weeks so that when she actually come and spend time at the school. Otherwise, Shweta is a residential student, so she has to go through a lot of solo training, right? And training, partner training with or doing any sort of drill with GT is so insane because he will change midway, and he has no idea that he has changed. You either can follow him or he's gonna think you're doing something wrong. And in your head, the pressure of, oh my god, I'm doing something wrong is really messed up.
You told us to jump in. Can I segue for a second,
Yes.
Shweta, and say that I feel like out of the three of us, I'm saying like you, me, and Z, I was so happy to see that I felt like despite the fact that we have Adi and despite the fact that we do partner training, you seemed to be the one who was most able to interpret what GT was asked. You remember when we were doing the reverse Dinavali and I was about to die? Or even when we were doing the hubud with the sticks, and there was just points that GT was looking at me and he was just like, bro. And I was like, oh, shoot. And you just got it like this. And I was like, dude, this chick is training by herself on a computer screen 80% of the time, but she's getting this. That was very cool. I thought that was very cool.
This is a good time to advertise my online classes, guys. It's great.
He has online classes.
But what is that experience training with GT, like your first experience training with GT? Because it's hard.
It was hard, and the first day, I think the first few times, the way GT trains is he does something and then he stops, and then he's like,
Now you.
"You have to do something," and I was like, "I've never actually done this much. I haven't had that much partner training, so I would just be frozen and not know what to do now." And I'd try a few things and he'd just, okay, this, this, okay. The first 10 minutes were just GT giving me these error messages. No, wrong answer, wrong answer. And then I think we switched and I was training with you and you did the same thing. And we had like a very short conversation. He was like, oh, he's asking you to just do this. And I did that. I just repeated that. Like, oh, I've done this before. And then that connection happened. And what I realized when I went back to GT, what I realized was all of the things that he was doing are things that we have done before. At a different time and maybe in a different class, in a different setting. And all of that stems from the basic drills that we've been doing all along. And all the smallest possible elements that you could break a drill down to. It was a combination of all of those pieces. And I feel like I had most of those pieces already going in. So what I started doing after the first half an hour was forget about the sequence of things that he was asking me to do, right? Like not see it as a drill, not see it as a combination, as a preset combination, but basic responses to the basic things that he'd throw at me and just apply that. And the sequence would keep changing. And so many times, I think when each one of us got together, everyone was doing a different thing. Like if I'd move to Z, I'd be like, oh, is that what you're doing? And then I have to adapt to what Z was doing. And when we switched back, and I'm now with Neha, and Neha's doing something completely different. And I was like, okay, is that what he said to you? Okay, cool. Let me try to adapt to that. And when I'd be with you, you'd be like, okay, wait. This is option 1. This is option 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is also something else that you can do with it. So it was like, all of those pieces were adding up and making a lot of sense. And it wasn't like we were learning a set pattern. We were learning to solve problems in real time. And that was mind-blowing. It was very mentally exhausting. I don't think it was very physically challenging because all of those patterns are basically based on very normal, common, simple elements. So it wasn't difficult to do them physically, but to process and arrive at what needs to be done was very mentally hard.
I was told in the beginning, at some point, I can't remember, but in the beginning of my Pekiti journey by Tuhon Kanishk, he was like, in Pekiti, there are no advanced techniques. It is just the basics just come again and again and again and again in more imaginative ways. These aren't his exact words, but I really do believe that and that's essentially what all of our training is based on, whether you're online or you're physically there, is you have a core set of skills and you are just getting to know them like really good friends more and more and more and more, so that they become, so that when you need them, you are able to employ them in more and more imaginative and inventive and in, there's one more in word over here, um, intricate,
Intelligent?
intricate, intelligent also, intricate, intelligent ways. But essentially, it's an angle one is still an angle one. An angle one isn't going to magically turn into something else, right? An angle two is still an angle two. I'm just using the angle two as a check now, instead of using it as a slash, but it's still the same motion, right? Footwork is still footwork. You just might be using it in different context. But it was very cool to see you guys. You guys are proof of concept for me. Because like I keep saying this, at least to my knowledge, I'm the only Tuhon, or maybe one of the only Tuhons who has trained from recently with GT from zero to whatever in just Trivi, right? And everybody, you guys would have heard this really often, there's a saying that you can't learn Trivi without dosimetros. You need to know dosimetros to understand Trivi. And that's the prevailing thought, right? For me, I believe it can be and maybe should be done the opposite way. That Trivi builds a really good base for you that later on then you can go and learn dosimetros. And the idea is that, oh no, your students won't be able to learn, they won't be able to keep up, they won't be able to do well. But you guys really, by the end, you really thrived, and GT was really comfortable with you guys. It was, I've seen people not be able to handle it in the Philippines. I've seen them do nothing, never come back, learn nothing, just be miserable the whole times. But with you guys, it was great. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, GT has this funny way. He would show you something super elaborate,
Simple.
beautiful, graceful, but at a lightning speed. And then as soon as he was done, which was just a few seconds of showing it, he'd be like, very simple, very
Yeah, very
simple.
simple.
And we would just be like, what is going on? There's no
Yeah.
way I'm going to be able to, can you please slow it down for me? But he'd just be like, very simple, and now do it. But that's on a slightly humorous note. But in general, like what I think all of you have been talking about uh, with regards to basics and all of that, like showing one, two, three kind of variations of everything was really interesting, because that's what you guys would Aditya, you and GT would kind of show us, and then that was for our benefit in terms of like learning. But then as soon as you all were done with that, you would just go into like every uh not every, but like the multiple possible variations of that. And at that time, you weren't really instructing us. You all were just demonstrating. It was just like, you can do this, you can also do this, you can approach it like this. And that was just beautiful to watch, because then there's really no thinking involved. It's just like, this is coming at you. What are you going to do? Sometimes I might do this. Sometimes I might, counter like this. And then you're like, no matter what I learn in a class or in a drill or with a partner, like once I've got my basics down, I should be able to then um, figure out what are the different uh, reactions to anything.
I think you said something really important over there, which I keep trying to tell you guys in Goa, but I'm not as scary as GT, I guess, where I'm like, hey, stop thinking. Just stop thinking,
Yeah.
just do. But GT forces you to do. And I think
Yeah.
there's a combination of seeing the different ways that he does it and him just bullying you into doing. You don't have time to think or feel sorry for yourself or feel angry at somebody else or whatever. You're just doing, and your body is expressing it naturally. And then suddenly, before you know it, you're just doing it, you're doing it, which I think is very cool.